Hello. Hello. Today is February 14th. For those that celebrate, happy Valentine's Day. And this is our 14th day, well, my 14th day. And for those that have been joining me, our 14th day of me coming on and speaking about lessons learned from Black history. And today's topic focuses on knowing your truth and you will be set free. Know your truth, be set free. And I think this is a perfect topic for today because many are celebrating Valentine's Day. I particularly don't celebrate Valentine's Day because I know the truth of Valentine's Day and the history of that. So I choose to not celebrate. But in the world that we live now and how society is, it's been romanticized as a day of showing love. So, with that, that means loving yourself because love starts first with you. So, know thyself is to love thyself. And that's a great reflection of learning about the history of this nation, and knowing the history of the nation and of the world is to know that the world is filled with hate, and the world is filled with discrimination, and the world is filled with very many evils. And for us to know this truth and to recognize truth, that truth is what is the key to setting us free. And that means for us to learn from the past so that we don't continuously repeat the past, right? All of these past segments, I've been talking about different topics such as how power doesn't determine integrity, and how the importance of the societal push, and how that's the key to change, and a lot of the different topics that relate into that as well. And that is actually something that is very necessary and very important. All of these topics, when you combine them all together, all based on the true understanding and recognition of America and what America truly stands for, and representing and understanding that is to know the truth of it, that we are still not healing from the wounds of the past, and we have not healed from the wounds of the past. Okay, I am back. I was interrupted yet again. My apologies. I don't know why when I speak on these topics, it keeps doing that. But for us to recognize that we haven't learned from the past, and to know that we haven't learned from the past, is to recognize that we're going to continue to do and fall for the hard lessons of the past. Those hard lessons being based, rooted in evil, based, rooted in this under this denial, really, this denial, but this truth that there are only few within power, and that power is sustained through oppression. And that's basically the whole drive of what power is, right? Is to maintain control and to ensure control through oppression. So for us to recognize this truth is the only way for us to be set free. And thank you guys for joining me. But that's the recognition of why it's powerful to speak about it today. As I mentioned, for those that just came in, is because it's Valentine's Day. I don't celebrate Valentine's Day because I know the history of Valentine's Day, but a lot of people do. It has a different meaning now. So to celebrate that is meaning it's rooted in love, right? And so if it's rooted in love, then if we're moving through love, then we're moving through the understanding of love from the human approach, the love for the human, right? Regardless of who that human is. And to have that and to be able to move within that is to be able to move through negative thinking, negative beliefs of people and societies, and just biases and all of those hateful things. And to move through love is to have an understanding that you can only do that if we are willing to learn from the past, as I've mentioned. And that is why these talks are also important, and why I'm doing these talks during Black History Month, because it's an important way of understanding how you can look to the past and learn from the past. And that's one thing and one purpose of Black History Month. It's about learning from the past. It's a time of reflection, right? It's a time of understanding, and it's a time for, course correction. Or what have we learned from that past for us to actually move forward in a true, healthy, and humane world? And as we see, we have not learned from that past. And I think today's topic, the main reason I chose this topic is because I was fortunate enough to have people join me yesterday, and we actually had great discussion. And I was led to look up something that I have not looked up before, never even heard of it. I'm not one to be all in Reddit and stuff like that. I don't go down rabbit holes. I choose to stay where I am and in the, understanding of knowledge. And I was told to look up Harriet Tubman conspiracy. So I went and looked it up. And the first All right. This is the second time that my live has been interrupted and pulled down. So I'm seeing that this discussion is hitting a nerve, but I'm going to continue it. But I was told to look up Harriet Tubman conspiracy. So I went and looked it up. And I was told to look up Harriet Tubman conspiracy. I think you joined me before, Jungle Boy. Have you been here before? Regardless, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me. I was told to look up or check out Harriet Tubman conspiracy, and of course, I'm gonna go look. I'm open-minded person. I know, and I looked it up, and it really, really upset me when I looked it up. To be honest, I'm a very sensitive woman, so I was just like, people really are out here to deny us, right? That's the truth. We have to really, really understand that truth. And then, of course, you scroll on TikTok, and I came to a video that had another fact, and it spoke on the names of slave ships, the names of the first slave ships. If you keep talking about them, they ban you off here completely, like they did all the other people who talk about what you say. So talk in code. Okay, got it. Well, one of the first ships, we'll say that, one of the first ships that brought us to the great voyage of this nation, to this nation. Do you know they had was named after Jesus and all the other biblical terms. So it's just something we have to learn. This country does not want to learn. It's not rooted in learning. I do the work that I do, to drive change. But hi, how are you doing, Carol? Thanks for joining. But I think that's for a lot of people that work in HR that actually do like the DEI type work that I do, So it's one of those things where you have this feeling, am I actually making a change? Now, yes, I do feel that I'm making a change because I'm not rooted in evil. I'm rooted in humanity and how I move about. That's my truth. And that's why I'm set free. So it's all on everyone else that's in those spaces of denial to be willing to listen, because you don't want to. You have your own way. We have our own free will. That's the beauty of being human. We have free will. And free will allows us to believe whatever truth we want to believe, regardless if it's true or not, right? That's our free will. So, with that, a lot of humans feel that they can force or push their truth of what they believe on other people. And that's where the line gets blurred, because that leads to hate, right? And that hate is why many suffer while the top prosper, because we're infighting, because we're focused on what we believe in and how what we believe in is right and the other person is wrong, instead of communicating, because communication is what is important. Communication is what's going to drive change. Communication is what drives understanding. Communication is what drives, understanding between people and groups, or at least a form of acceptance. And that's something we've shied away from. Nobody wants to communicate anymore. And if we do, it's through hateful pathways. It's not through a true understanding or, rooted in acceptance. You know, it's rooted in negativity and the idea of superiority. And that's why we're not able to be set free, if that makes sense, because everyone is too focused on who's better than the other, what group is better, who's smarter, who deserves more than the other, right? Instead of the equilibrium and balance and the humane approach that we are all human and all the same. And that's one thing that has not been learned and will not be learned. And that's an example. So something you talked about, it's like something in your heart. Yes, it's in my heart, because there's so many conspiracies, and just, we have the freedom to believe what we want. That's the beauty of it, right? Especially here in America. We have the freedom to do that. You have the freedom to do that. But as long as you're doing it in a lawful way, right? As long as you're not bringing harm on another. And of course, the human approach is to not do harm unto others, regardless of what religion you believe, whatever you believe. They all are rooted in that understanding, the humane approach. And I think that that's where people get confused, and where people start to drive hate and fear, because they're more focused on how they are superior to someone else. And that same thinking that's rooted in that understanding of societal thinking, and that is pushed through large think tanks and people that we uphold and people in power, which also shapes how we work and where we work and how our workplaces are designed and all of that. What's accepted, what's not accepted, who gets advanced, who doesn't get advanced. Yeah. It's all about, who gets advanced, who doesn't get advanced. I know we kind of, a question was asked yesterday about workplace politics and how I felt about that. I didn't even get down to the root of it, because we were kind of talking about so many different things. But even on workplace politics, that aligns within this as well. And how we go about who is really valued, because we can have many issues dealing with workplace politics, such as harassment. Are we going to believe someone over someone else, others taking your work, others using your hard-earned knowledge? This is who you are. When you're doing your job, you're getting paid for your brain and what you do and your capabilities, right? And when you're coming to the workplace and you're giving your all to that, and then someone else is siphoning and taking your identity, taking your hard work, and then advancing with it. That's another way of looking at it, I'm better than you, I'm more superior than you, I'm going to take you. So that's another way of how our past has haunted us, the past has haunted us into the future. And this is why it's important that we have to learn to step up as ourselves as leaders, and we got to stop it right here and now, you know? And when we talk about politics and the workplace politics, that also in that discussion, that's going to highlight, how you are accepted within the workplace, what's accepted within the workplace. And even then how do you combat that? So it's not just a benefit for you, but for others. And that's us all standing up and learning to speak for ourselves, and not just for ourselves, for others, because when we speak for ourselves, we're speaking for other people as well. So that's another reason why this topic is important, because it's to know your truth and you'll be set free. Because to know your truth is to know you're giving yourself in the workplace, you're giving your all. The work relationship between your employer and you is a relationship. It's no different than any other relationship outside of your job. Only difference is it's a work relationship. So it's important that you show up, and you show up 100% yourself. That means if you have to call someone out for disrespecting you, you do it, and you do it right then and there. And if you see something that's going wrong, you speak up and you do it, and you do it right then and there. And regardless of what the situation is, if you do it in a way to protect yourself, because a lot of businesses, they have, anonymous ways that you can report. Always take that approach. And with everything you do on your job, always document everything. Keep a paper trail. You cannot trust anyone. That is one thing that is for sure. Keep a paper trail, because that's the first thing HR is going to ask. Well, how do you know? When did this happen? How did this happen? They want documentation. They want proof, so you have to be able to prove that. So it's just, it's a way that we move about, that we need to start moving about. Knowing our truth is to know that we need to be respected, is to know that we are living in a society and in a world that does not want change. And we have to truly believe that and live in that and understand that. And only then can we be set free. Because to live in that denial is to run yourself crazy with trying to explain the whys of everything. And that is not, someone would say, victim blaming. It's a fact. Because as I've been having these talks and talking about Black History Month and talking about all of this, we're looking to the past. We're kind of referencing things to the past. I'm not getting all down and into the what actually happened and the facts of why we are in this society, why it is what it is. It's the fact that nothing was learned. There was no true reparations for slavery, no sort of accountability, and that is rooted in the understanding of superior thinking. No form of forgiveness, not even a thank you from this nation. So when you think about that, that means there's never been accountability. And then you think about this also creates how we work and the lives that we live and how we move about. And this is not just about a Black thing also, because we have to remember during that time there were others. So this becomes a class thing as well. And so when we focus on it being a class thing, it's showing that it's also the poor. And that same design has followed us into the future, as I've spoken about in the previous lives. And that shows that, as I mentioned, there will be no change unless we create the change ourselves. And that change starts with us, and that's the truth. And as I said, when you know the truth, then you will be set free. To deny the truth is to deny your existence and your advancement and your capabilities of being your true self and loving yourself. Because the truth is, you can only love fully if you're able to truly love yourself. And that's a fact. The truth is disruptive. It exposes everything. And when you expose, that fear comes, right? The fear. What do people think about me? What do people think? That changes how everyone, wants to be viewed. And that causes panic and hysteria and fear mongering. Because once fear sets in, you want others to fear you, right? This is why we have all of this division and going on. It's like all of these things and what is going on. It's all of the division that's been going on. It's all about a distraction. And that distraction is to keep you from realizing we're all the same. But we're so busy focusing on the differences of it, right? And that doesn't mean that we're going to also limit or ignore the wrongs that are being done. We got to talk it out, right? We have to fight it out. We got to argue it out, but we have to argue it out in a way that does not distract us from the fact that we are one and the same. And some people got to get left behind. If they got to get left behind. I think that's one thing. I think if we just leave those that don't want to believe behind, that we would move forward better. We would have more form of advancement, because some people just don't want to believe. There's always a excuse, a deflection, I don't know. It's strange. It's strange. But that's definitely one thing that's within me that I feel I need to had to come on to speak about today. That definitely um yeah. I think one of the hardest things is, it's to go about. I've been experiencing these types of issues all my life, you know? Forms of racism, no matter where I've lived in the world. I've lived all over the world. I've lived all over the world. And it's just and it's so strange to me that someone that can look like me, can hate me because I'm black and they're not. But you look just like me. Your skin is actually probably darker than me, but it's deemed as acceptable because I'm black and you are not. So it's just strange. But that's what hate is, right? Hate has no clear meaning because it's about power and it's about control. And to know your truth is to maintain your power and to be in control. And that's why you're set free. And that's to strengthen that power, not only within you, but within others by speaking up. By speaking up and holding people accountable. And these people are all around us, you know? We just kind of accept it and go about it. And that's one thing, you kind of have to do that you have to accept it and go about it. Yeah. Depending on situations, because that's the world we live in, and it's not our place. It's not my place to educate anyone, I shouldn't have to educate anyone on why you shouldn't be evil, on why you shouldn't have hate in your heart. And then you take that evil and that hate and you bring it into spaces to continue to implement forms of suppression and then try to deny it and create a world of denial around that. That's dangerous. That is dangerous. I did not expect the talk to go like this today. I don't know what I was going to speak about, but definitely what I had to say had to be said. I think, and it's not even a think, I know that these divisions are intentional. The division isn't intentional. And I find it interesting that we're so divided, but there's so many other things that we agree on, you know. But that's why it's a distraction. That's why it's a distraction. So, where do we go from here? First off, it always boils down to money because that's the world we live in. Everything is money. So that means it's all about how we spend our money, you know, what companies we choose to work for, because we, the individual, the human, we drive business. Humans are the key to business success. We are the workers. We are the builders. We drive it. Even if they implement AI, we're gonna build the computer. We're programming the computer. We're doing all of that type of stuff. The human is the key to business success. The human is the heartbeat of the business. We are the drivers. We are the collective buyers. We are the strategists of how to get people to buy. So we are what drives success. And what how our how we perform determines how much money we're going to make, right? Cuz it's a hamster wheel of, you know, buy, pay. I go to work, I get paid. I go to work, I get paid. I go to work, I get paid. I get paid, I go buy something. They told me to buy it, so I'm going to buy it. It's like that movie, They Live. One of my favorite movies. They Live. Got to remember that greed is the operating system. Greed is the operating system, right? So us, the human, is driving business success, right? We're the key to business success because we're the ones buying whatever is being produced or sold. We're the ones creating what's being produced or sold. So that's the understanding. I go to work, I get paid. I go to work, I get paid. When I get paid, I'm going to spend my money. How am I going to spend my money? Right? So that's the world that we live in. So in order to even consider driving change is to consider how we work and to consider how we spend our money. Those are the two powers that we have. How do we work and how do we spend our money? Those are the two drivers of change within this world. Where do we want to work and how do we want to work and what does work look like? And where are you going to spend that hard-earned paycheck? Those are two ways to push in society for change. How we work and how we spend our money. Because all it is about is the rat race, right? You go to work, you get paid. You go to work, you get paid, you spend your money. You go to work, you get paid, you spend your money. So while you're doing that, shouldn't you be happy doing that? If I'm going to be in a hamster wheel, living this rat race, I should be happy doing it, right? I should want to come to work because I'm going to get paid. And then I'm going to buy what I want to buy. But if we working like slaves, repeating that cycle from the past, how are we truly driving success, right? Because you ain't going to be successful if you ain't happy. That's one thing that we are not learning. The world would be more prosperous if people were happy. Because nobody's really happy. The statistics are showing it. People are depressed. People don't trust anyone. People are living in anger and fear. And this is why there's no true success. Because true success is for everyone to be prosperous and everyone to be happy. You're not living in success. I don't care how rich you are. Because the first thing you worried about is somebody going to take my money. Is someone going to rob me? Is someone going to cheat me? Because that's the first thing they think about. Because that's all they think about is their money. Right? Can I go over there? It's dangerous. Stereotypes. You wouldn't have those stereotypes if everyone was treated equally and everyone was allowed to prosper. And that starts through the workplace and how we spend our money. Two things. Because remember, I think I spoke on day 1, February 1st, my first video, and I spoke on the 3 corporations. There are 3 corporations, 3 types of corporations, and they're the ones that drive society. 3 corporations. That's government, average business corporations, and religion. They are all intertwined with how society runs, how we work, and how we spend our money. So they're using that to determine what we should buy and what we shouldn't buy. What's good for us, what's not good for us. But none of that has to do with, are you happy? And true well-being. Yeah, we'll speak about it in the workplace, but not every workplace is ensuring well-being, right? It's a big debate if that even is a thing. So, like I said, change comes from where you work and how you spend your money. So the lesson of the day and the truth of the day is to recognize that your truth is, are you happy where you work? And are you happy how you spend your money? And until you are happy about that, only then you can be set free. Because those are the two things that are determining change within this world. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining me today. I'll be back on again tomorrow, and I look forward to having more talks with you. And until then, be the change, love yourself and others. Bye.